quick walkthrough here. 2006 Hummer H3 that been swapped out, did an engine swap with a Cummins 4BT. So if you look, here it is tucked real neatly right in the bay. Everything fits pretty well width-wise. It's almost the same width as the i5 that came out of it. Height-wise, it's a little bit taller with the crossover tube that you see on top there and at the oil pan underneath. So reuse the factory air box here, comes over, tubing back to the turbo. Reuse the factory air compressor, AC compressor. It's a custom bracket here. This mounts on this side. The power steering pump is the factory Cummins. You see the top for it here. Right now I'm running the factory radiator and shroud, and I've got a 17-inch fan on there. It's not quite centered. It's centered left to right, but top to bottom. I think the original was close to a 20-inch fan. So using the original battery, it's a crossover cable going to the other side for the starter. The starter's down below the turbo on this side. It's currently not intercooled. Just a crossover pipe running across here that you can see. And a little custom radiator hose to get around the AC compressor on the front end. So one of the things that I had when I originally put it in, I had a push cable on the throttle that came in on this side and was hooked in with a bell crank linkage here. I found that the pedal travel was real short, so the pedal was very, very stiff. So what I ended up doing is, this is the throttle body right here off the original i5 engine that's hooked back up, and it's hooked back up through the electronics, and I don't have a cable on the accelerator pedal. So that runs a drive-by-wire system, which actually opens the throttle body, which if you can see here, I've modified the throttle plate and just put a small linkage arm in there. So when I hit the throttle, it pulls this cable, pulls in on the pump here, on this linkage here. And there's a return spring to keep it back. There's a very stiff spring under here. It was too much. The throttle cable would, or the throttle body would fault out because it was too much force on it. Went down to Lowe's, found a throttle spring, or just a generic spring that fit. It's a pretty loose spring, but it's enough to make it come back to idle. So heater hoses basically on the firewall here. It was a real tight fit. You can see I put a heat shield here, partially for looks, to keep the rusted manifold out of view and help some of the underhood heat on that side. So AC compressor, these are custom hoses, come around. The discharge side runs back around to the other side on the firewall, back through the factory hosing, comes back through the condenser, and it's a factory condenser line from the condenser up to the evaporator, and then a custom return line that's very short here, back on the suction side right to the firewall. Everything else is retained here on the inside. So come underneath and take a look. I've got the skid plate off. You can probably see it a little better from over here. Here you can see the pan sticking down. It's a very tight fit around the front axle here. I've actually shimmed the differential down just a tad to increase the clearance. There's a small rib on the back side of the axle that actually made contact, so I've got a pinhole leak on the oil pan now. Come around. And here you can see the clearance. I had to make some modifications to the oil pan. It is clearanced on this side, this front differential. You can see where it's notched out there. And it's the factory transmission. However, you do have to change the bell housing to a standard Chevy bell housing. The i5 takes a Atlas specific bell housing, and then everything drivetrain wise, there's a transfer case, is all in the factory factory position. All the gauges are hooked up. The speedometer runs off the factory speed switch out of the transfer case, so that's still there. The temperature gauge, pulled the probe off the i5 into this one, and the tack works. Let me show you the tack pickup and the custom tack wheel if we can see it here. It'd be hard to see with the light here. I'll get this in another video, but I basically notched the crank pulley and used the factory crank angle sensor right there on a pickup, and it picks up a 58X pulse train off the crank pulley. So I do have a few lights that are still on. The transmission controller is on a standalone, so the PCM does not like the fact that I don't have a transmission still hooked up, so it's throwing some fault codes. So other than that, it starts with the key. I forgot to show you here, I've got the boost gauge installed out of sight here. Just use this for tuning, so this is boosting exhaust temperature. Right now it's only very mildly tuned. I've got just a turn or two on the power screw, a little timing advance, and right now with it not intercooled, it's about as far as I want to go with it. Working on trying to get an intercooler set up, and when I get some more details or show some other stuff, I'll make a couple more videos to post up.